At the gym, Hyun, a dedicated fitness trainer, observed members working hard to build their strength. He admired their efforts, believing that the hard work put in here would always pay off. As he watched a woman's face flush with effort during her workout, he couldn't help but notice the results of her dedication. His thoughts wandered, appreciating the energy in the gym, though he quickly refocused when the manager called him over. The manager confronted Hyun, questioning why he seemed distracted by the members' appearances. Hyun explained that as a trainer, observing clients during their workouts was part of his job. The manager, unconvinced, advised him to stay professional and not focus on anything that could be misinterpreted. Hyun nodded, though he found it challenging to ignore the lively atmosphere around him. Nearby, another trainer was helping a woman adjust her posture. He guided her carefully, explaining how to engage her back muscles while keeping his hands on her waist to ensure proper form. Hyun, watching from a distance, felt uneasy about the trainer's approach, wondering if it was too hands-on. He muttered to himself, questioning the boundaries of such interactions. The manager, noticing Hyun's reaction, encouraged him to learn from observing others, emphasizing that building trust with clients was key. Hyun expressed concern that some actions might make clients uncomfortable, but the manager brushed it off, suggesting that the members seemed happy with the attention. He warned Hyun to keep improving and said he'd be watching his progress closely. After his shift, Hyun walked outside, still frustrated by the other trainer's behavior. A car pulled up, and inside were the same trainer and the woman from earlier. The trainer teased Hyun, calling him a skinny monkey and urging him to step up his game. He hinted that strong relationships with clients could lead to better opportunities, leaving Hyun annoyed and envious of the trainer's confidence. As they drove off, Hyun recognized the woman, suspecting the trainer had a pattern of getting too close with clients. Moments later, Hyun's cousin Sangmi appeared, playfully grabbing his arm. Startled but shyly pleased, Hyun remarked that she looked different, teasing her about her usual casual style. Sangmi laughed, kicking him lightly in response, and they headed to a nearby restaurant to catch up. Over dinner, Sangmi asked about Hyun's job as a trainer, poking fun at his thin frame. Hyun defended himself, insisting his physique was popular with clients. Sangmi teased him further, asking if he was surrounded by beautiful women at the gym. Hyun brushed it off, saying it wasn't like that, though Sangmi jokingly wondered if he'd ever notice anyone else with a childhood friend like her around. When Sangmi expressed interest in joining his gym, Hyun was surprised but hesitant, worried she might find his workplace embarrassing. Meanwhile, the other trainer and the woman from the gym arrived at a hotel for what he called a final workout session. He offered to massage her to ease the day's strain, focusing on stretches to help her relax. After the session, the woman expressed interest in more personal training, clearly pleased with his guidance. As she rested, the trainer's thoughts drifted to Sangmi, wondering why she kept crossing his mind. The next day at the gym, Hyun was coaching a woman, instructing her to adjust her hips for proper form. Suddenly, Sangmi walked in, catching him off guard. The client, eager for his attention, asked him to stay and help with her posture. Hyun apologized, explaining that a friend had arrived, but before he could reach Sangmi, the other trainer swooped in. He greeted Sangmi warmly, offering to show her around the gym and insisting she come with him first. Hyun, stuck with his client, felt a pang of frustration as the trainer seized the moment, leaving him unable to intervene. While training a woman at the gym, Hyun's thoughts drifted to Sangmi and the other trainer. He wondered why their enrollment talk was taking so long and what they might be doing. The woman he was coaching interrupted, suggesting he adjust his hands lower to help her form. Hyun barely registered her request when Sangmi emerged from a nearby room. Hyun quickly told the woman to take a break and hydrate, then turned to Sangmi. She playfully scolded him for not greeting her when she arrived, assuming he'd be the first to welcome her. Hyun apologized, explaining he was busy teaching and missed her message about coming. Sangmi, excited about the gym, shared that she'd been offered 2 free classes if she signed up and was eager to start. Hyun, swamped with clients, suggested she come back tomorrow. Sangmi laughed, clarifying she hadn't asked him to be her coach, catching him off guard. The other trainer approached, instructing Sangmi to change into workout clothes. As she left, He turned to Hyun, asking if there was anything romantic between them. Hyun insisted Sangmi was just a childhood friend. Nothing more. The trainer nodded, promising to guide her well, leaving Hyun uneasy. Later, as the trainer coached Sangmi, he instructed her to stretch her arms fully and position them at a right angle. Meanwhile, Hyun worked with his client, who grew frustrated when he kept focusing on squats, distracted by watching Sangmi. He apologized, refocusing on her session. Afterward, Sangmi called out to Hyun, saying she was leaving. He offered to walk with her, but the manager reminded him it was his turn to clean the gym. Disappointed, Hyun watched Sangmi leave and began cleaning, grumbling to himself. He felt annoyed that Sangmi didn't want him as her coach and believed clients only cared about trainers with impressive physiques. The manager, a woman, suddenly tapped his back, asking what he was thinking and if he was slacking on cleaning. She invited him to help her instead, beginning to stretch and asking for his assistance. Hyun hesitated but supported her as she stretched her legs, unsure of her intentions. The manager critiqued his passive approach, explaining that physical contact, done correctly, built trust with clients. She guided him to press harder and use his body weight to deepen the stretch, emphasizing key points like hand angles. Hyun grew uncomfortable, questioning how close he should get as their positions became awkward. They quickly stood up. The manager praised his effort, assuring him that following her advice would attract more clients. She then asked about Sangmi, noting her beauty and teasingly probing if she was Hyun's first love. Hyun clarified they were just friends who lived in the same building, not together. The manager casually mentioned that Sangmi had left with the other trainer, Coach Dong, leaving Hyun stunned. After finishing, Hyun stepped outside and tried calling Sangmi, but she didn't answer. His mind raced, wondering if she was working out with Dong. He headed to her apartment, where her mother greeted him, saying Sangmi hadn't returned yet. As they spoke, a red car pulled up, and Sangmi stepped out with Dong. She spotted Hyun, surprised, and asked why he was there. Hyun, his voice tight, asked where she'd been, his thoughts swirling with suspicion. Sangmi's eyes widened as she saw her mother with Hyun outside their apartment. She asked what they were doing, and Hyun, his voice sharp, questioned where she'd been. Sangmi, confused, reminded him they'd just seen each other at the gym. When he pressed about where she went afterward, she bristled, asking why she owed him an explanation. Her mother, sensing tension, grabbed Hyun's arm and insisted they all go inside, brushing off his protests. Sangmi agreed, noting Hyun looked exhausted from work and should rest, bidding him good night. Her mother, undeterred, offered to cut fruit, ignoring Sangmi's comment about avoiding fruit at night, and ushered them into the house. Later, alone in his bed, Hyun's thoughts swirled around Sangmi. He recalled how, a year after his family moved to Seoul, Sangmi's family settled on the floor above theirs. Both families, hailing from rural areas, bonded quickly. As kids, Hyun and Sangmi became close friends. Classmates often teased Hyun for his small, frail frame, but Sangmi, tall for her age, always stepped in to defend him. He felt deep gratitude for her, his only true friend. Over time, he grew stronger and no longer needed her protection, but his appreciation never faded. A memory surfaced. Sangmi playfully teased him by resting her leg on him, joking it wasn't heavy. Hyun had grumbled, pushing her foot away, annoyed but secretly amused by her antics. He'd stormed off, but the moment lingered in his mind. The next day at the gym, Hyun noticed Sangmi's absence and texted her, asking why she didn't show up. She replied that her body ached from the previous workout. He teased that it was due to her lack of regular exercise, offering to visit her later for a massage. She agreed, and Hyun, finishing his shift, walked home, wondering if she'd be there. Realizing he forgot his phone at the gym, he doubled back. As he retrieved it, he muttered about the messy state of the place, noting it was Coach Dong's turn to clean. A strange noise from the storeroom caught his attention. Curiosity pulled him closer, and he peeked inside, spotting Dong and the manager engaged in what seemed like an intense workout session. Dong complimented the manager, calling her exceptional. She laughed, pointing out his habit of spending time with younger women, though he insisted none compared to her. The manager teased that he always knew what women wanted to hear, calling him the best coach. She then asked about the girl he'd left with last time, referring to Sangmi, and Hyun leaned in, heart racing, desperate to hear Dong's response. Dong brushed it off as a silly question, leaving Hyun hanging, his mind churning with suspicion. In the storeroom, the manager asked Dong how his time with the girl was, teasing if it was enjoyable. Dong clarified he didn't go with her for fun but to secure her commitment to the gym, a move that benefited them both. He insisted the manager was the only one he had a special connection with. She laughed, accusing him of sweet-talking to keep his position as head coach. Dong boasted no one could replace him, dismissing Hyun as too scrawny to compete. Outside, Hyun overheard, his anger simmering at the insult. Dong continued, claiming he was the reason the gym thrived, challenging the manager to disagree. She reluctantly agreed, and after their workout session, they rested and prepared to leave. Dong bid her goodbye, and as he left, the manager reflected on his arrogance and waning energy, suspecting he relied too heavily on supplements. Noticing Hyun lingering outside, she realized he'd heard everything. Later, Hyun walked alone, processing what he'd witnessed. He hadn't expected the manager, Song, to have such a close relationship with Dong. The gym's reputation for unprofessional behavior didn't surprise him, but he wondered about the girl the manager mentioned, hoping it wasn't Sangmi. Shaking off the thought, he headed to Sangmi's apartment. She opened the door, her face covered in a mask, and greeted him casually. Hyun asked about her mother, and Sangmi explained she was out with his mom for drinks, inviting him inside. Hyun questioned why she skipped the gym, and Sangmi reminded him her body was sore. He suggested it was lactic acid buildup and recommended stretching to relax her muscles. Noticing a bandage on her wrist, he asked what happened. She brushed it off as an accident from moving heavy items at work. Hyun urged her to be careful, warning that her tired muscles couldn't handle extra strain. Sangmi teased if he came to scold her, then grabbed his hand, leading him to her room for the massage he'd promised. Sangmi playfully demanded he start, reminding him of his earlier offer. Hyun hesitated, suggesting she use a yoga roller instead, but Sangmi mentioned Coach Dong had offered a massage service for sore muscles. Not wanting her to turn to Dong, Hyun agreed to help. As he massaged her back, Sangmi urged him to press harder and climb onto her to apply more pressure. Hyun found her demanding but complied, working on her back as she relaxed. She praised his efforts, but Hyun grew nervous, noticing she wore little clothing, which made him shy and uneasy as he continued. Hyun paused during the massage, asking Sangmi if it hurt. She assured him it was fine and shared that she found exercising fun. When he asked about Coach Dong's teaching, Sangmi casually referred to him as the team leader and praised his gentlemanly demeanor. Hyun, surprised, questioned if Dong was truly polite, his tone betraying irritation. Sangmi, catching his slip, asked if she'd heard right, then mentioned that coaches often messaged clients about their diets. Hyun tensed, asking if Dong sent her messages. She confirmed he did, frequently, and Hyun mumbled that most coaches did, though he'd thought it was just him. Sangmi asked him to rub her legs, and as he complied, Hyun probed for her opinion on Dong, noting his popularity with female clients. Sangmi described Dong as handsome, nice, and fit, unsurprising for a coach. She teased Hyun about his slim frame, claiming it wasn't attractive to girls. Hyun protested, arguing not all girls shared the same tastes. Sangmi countered that Dong's stocky build was generally preferred, adding that Hyun's less masculine appearance made her comfortable with him touching her legs. Stunned, Hyun asked if that was why she allowed it, and she confirmed, urging him not to overthink and press harder. Relieved by her casual attitude, Hyun admitted he'd been nervous, but Sangmi insisted their friendship made such things unimportant. She encouraged him to massage her thighs freely, assuring him she'd never think oddly of it. Hyun, reassured, pressed harder, asking if it felt good. Sangmi nodded, then instructed him to lift her hips to improve circulation, explaining it targeted lymph glands. Hyun hesitated, but she dismissed his embarrassment, guiding him into the position. He asked if it felt strange, but Sangmi laughed it off, confirming it felt great. Suddenly, her mother walked in, startling them with a questioning look, leaving Hyun frozen. The next day at the gym, the manager stretched alone until Dong approached, playfully tapping her back and warning that without exercise, her figure might suffer. He greeted another woman nearby, exuding confidence. The manager, unimpressed, thought to herself about his arrogance, wondering how to handle him. In a corner, Hyun sat, visibly downcast. He replayed the massage, worried Sangmi's mother misunderstood his intentions. Regretting giving in to Sangmi's teasing, he sighed in frustration. The manager approached, startling him by commenting on his poor sales. Hyun, caught off guard, insisted he was working hard. She dismissed his efforts, stressing that hard work meant nothing without results. Noting his potential and appealing body type, she offered to teach him how to succeed, hinting he could be like Dong. Hyun, puzzled, asked what she meant, unsure where her offer would lead. The manager challenged Hyun, asking if he wanted to be the top-selling coach. Hyun admitted it would be great but confessed he was seeking something deeper. He noted Dong's popularity with female clients, assuming girls preferred a stocky physique like Dong's. The manager, surprised, reminded him she'd already said his body type was attractive, gently touching his chest. She asked what skills made a good coach, helping clients lose weight or gain muscle. Hyun hesitated and she clarified it was neither. In this business, she explained, clients wouldn't keep paying if they achieved their goals quickly. A coach needed to be bold, charm the girls, and convince them to book more classes. Pointing across the gym, she directed Hyun's attention to Dong, who was joking with a client about her sore thighs, suggesting they ached from too much fun with a partner. The girl, flustered but amused, denied it, and Dong playfully offered to keep her company. The manager, showing Hyun, asked if they looked like they were exercising. She revealed the girl had already paid for 3 classes with Dong, emphasizing that clients wanted a fun, caring coach, not necessarily a skilled one. Praising Hyun's potential, she recalled how well he assisted her with stretches and complimented his appearance, suggesting he wear his hair up for work. Hyun nodded, agreeing to try. The manager pointed to a girl across the room, urging Hyun to approach her. He hesitated, recognizing her as someone Dong had trained before. Steeling himself, he walked over and greeted her, offering assistance. Noticing Dong was occupied with another client, the girl accepted Hyun's help, asking him to guide her in stretching her waist. Hyun instructed her to exhale and lean forward, focusing on relaxation. His hands pressed carefully, aiming to hit the key points as the manager had taught him. He wondered if it was working but stayed professional, encouraging her to lift her waist slightly. After the session, the girl thanked him and Hyun offered further help if needed. Suddenly, Dong stormed over, accusing Hyun of stealing his client and calling him unprofessional. Hyun and the girl were taken aback. The manager intervened, calmly explaining she'd asked Hyun to help because Dong was busy. She questioned why Dong neglected his client, warning that if the girl stopped paying for classes, he'd be responsible for the loss. Hyun echoed that he only stepped in due to Dong's absence. The manager teased if Dong was afraid Hyun might outshine him, escalating the tension. Hyun tried to defuse the situation, but Dong scoffed, dismissing the girl's value and making a crude remark about their past interactions. He glanced at the door, noting Sangmi's arrival with a smirk. Sangmi entered, cheerfully greeting everyone. Hyun's thoughts raced. She hadn't answered his calls but showed up unexpectedly. Dong welcomed her warmly, informing the manager that Sangmi had paid for a class with him. He suggested she head to the locker room and Sangmi agreed, hoping she wouldn't regret her choice. Dong reassured her with a laugh, exuding confidence. As they walked away, he shot Hyun a sly, taunting look, leaving Hyun unsettled and grappling with his growing unease about Sangmi's involvement with Dong. Dong instructed Sangmi to change for their workout session and she headed to the locker room while he waited outside. Suddenly, the girl he'd previously trained approached, accusing him of neglecting her. She pointed out that another coach, Hyun, had to step in because Dong ignored her. Dong brushed it off, saying he was busy and it was normal for another coach to assist. The girl, unconvinced, mentioned seeing him argue with Hyun over her, questioning if that was his idea of being busy. Dong denied arguing, claiming he was just checking her stretches and excused himself to prepare for a class, dismissing her complaints. The girl, frustrated, threatened to demand a refund. Dong scoffed, telling her to go ahead, noting she already knew the routines and didn't need more classes. He suggested she train with Hyun instead, mockingly asking if she thought they were dating, leaving her stunned and hurt by his callousness. Later, Hyun confronted Sangmi, upset that she hadn't answered his calls all day yet showed up at the gym. She apologized, explaining she was busy. He questioned why she paid for classes with Dong, insisting he could teach her for free. Sangmi, annoyed, said the decision was made and she trusted Dong as a coach to guide her properly. Hyun, suspicious, asked if she liked Dong. Sangmi snapped, telling him to stop talking nonsense and pushed past him to change. When Sangmi emerged in her new workout clothes, heads turned. Dong complimented her, saying the outfit suited her and she looked cute. He outlined their session focusing on lower body exercises, starting with stretches. He guided her into the frog pose, instructing her to spread her legs, point her feet out, and lean back slightly to stretch her hip ligaments for better joint flexibility. Sangmi followed, and Dong praised her flexibility, asking if she felt the stretch. Hyun, watching from a distance, fumed. He couldn't believe Sangmi was in such a position so casually under Dong's guidance. His mind raced, wondering if she allowed Dong to get too close. The manager, noticing his distress, asked if Sangmi was his friend. Hyun confirmed, admitting she'd paid for classes with Dong before he could stop her. The manager called him foolish for letting Dong take her as a client, saying it was too late to intervene. Hyun apologized, but she waved it off, stating the problem was his to fix. She warned that Dong was cunning and likely manipulating Sangmi. Pointing out Sangmi's leggings, the manager noted they showed no panty lines, suggesting she wore a thong. Hyun, shocked, listened as the manager explained that squatting in a thong could cause a good mood, implying Dong chose the exercise deliberately to provoke a reaction. She hinted they might escalate their interaction later, leaving Hyun reeling with concern and jealousy. The manager noticed Hyun's troubled expression, asking if he was worried. Hyun denied it, calling the idea ridiculous, but his tone lacked conviction. As he walked toward the locker room, he muttered to himself, dismissing the manager's claim that squatting in a thong could be stimulating. He thought she was exaggerating and decided to head to the warehouse to organize it, needing space to clear his head. Alone in the locker room, Hyun's thoughts churned. He questioned what made Dong so appealing and why he cared so much about Sangmi's choices. His mind drifted to their shared past, recalling how he'd watched Sangmi navigate her romantic life from a young age. A memory surfaced. They were watching TV together, Sangmi tapping away on her phone. She suddenly showed him a picture of a girl in a revealing dress, asking if it would excite him. Hyun, flustered, asked why she was showing him. Sangmi explained she wanted to surprise her boyfriend for their 100-day anniversary and sought his opinion on the outfit. Hyun, uncomfortable, brushed it off, saying he didn't know why she asked him. Reflecting now, he wondered if her casual attitude back then meant she was already experienced in matters of romance, fueling his unease about her current interactions. The manager's sudden arrival snapped him back to the present. Hyun assured her he was nearly done and didn't need help. Ignoring him, she began stretching, shedding some clothing to demonstrate a point. Hyun, alarmed, asked what she was doing. She explained she was proving that squats could indeed be stimulating for women, countering his earlier skepticism. She emphasized the effect, urging him to notice how clothing played a role. Hyun, embarrassed, begged her to stop, saying he understood. She refused, playfully insisting he take responsibility for sparking her enthusiasm. As Hyun stepped back, he stumbled and fell. The manager teased him for being nervous, referencing the night he saw her and Dong in the storeroom. She probed what he thought while watching, suggesting he might have wanted to take Dong's place. She claimed he had the potential to charm not just her but also gym clients, as she told him before, but he hadn't yet tapped into it. Offering to help him unlock that potential, she made a bold comment about testing his abilities first, leaving Hyun stunned and grappling with her provocative words. In the gym, Dong guided Sangmi through her workout, urging her to breathe out as she opened her legs, emphasizing controlled breathing. He noted the muscles they were targeting were being stimulated, promising a thorough lower body session. Sangmi focused, following his instructions as they trained. Meanwhile, in the locker room, Hyun and the manager began a workout session. As they stretched, the manager probed Hyun about Sangmi, asking if his childhood friend was the reason for his guarded attitude. She questioned if he felt Sangmi didn't see him as masculine when they spent time together. Hyun hesitated, denying the thought. The manager pressed further, asking why he'd reacted physically when he saw Sangmi squatting, leaving him flustered and unable to respond. After their session, Hyun and the manager stepped outside. Hyun glanced around, wondering if Sangmi's class had ended and where she'd gone, noticing Dong was also absent. His concern grew, unaware that Dong and Sangmi were still training elsewhere. Dong, catching up with Sangmi, asked where she'd been, explaining they'd been working on lower body exercises. He checked if anything had happened, sensing her distraction, but Sangmi remained focused on the workout, brushing off his question. Hyun spotted Sangmi and asked where she'd been. She hesitated, but Dong interjected, explaining they were working on lower body exercises and asked if something was wrong. Hyun, skeptical, pointed out that running typically worked the lower body and questioned what exercises they were doing. Dong, casually holding Sangmi's arm, suggested they go running. Hyun countered, noting the dusty air and explaining that running was aerobic, implying it wasn't the focus. Dong dismissed him as old-fashioned, listing other ways to train the lower body and questioning why Hyun cared so much about another customer's routine. Hyun insisted he was looking out for his friend, who wanted to exercise seriously. Dong, smirking, asked if Hyun thought he wasn't teaching her well. The manager appeared, interrupting their tense exchange and urging them to get back to work. Noticing Sangmi, she greeted her warmly, asking if she felt comfortable. Sangmi thanked Coach Dong for his guidance. The manager, placing a hand on Dong's shoulder, praised his teaching skills and mentioned hearing that Sangmi and Hyun were friends. Sangmi, resting a hand on Hyun's arm, confirmed they'd been close since childhood. Hyun agreed, though his tone was lukewarm. The manager, delighted, proposed they all go for drinks later, suggesting a group dinner to enjoy each other's company. Sangmi, intrigued, asked about dining together. That night, the four gathered at a restaurant, sharing drinks. The manager quickly finished a glass of beer, impressing Sangmi, who remarked that she didn't expect someone with such a fit physique to drink so much. Hyun, feeling overlooked, asked what about him. Sangmi teased that he was too thin and should eat and drink more. Dong chimed in, advising Sangmi that eating only vegetables to lose weight could trick her body into starvation mode, and occasional indulgences weren't harmful. The manager, turning to Sangmi, asked if there was truly nothing special between her and Hyun, finding it hard to believe a man and woman could share just friendship after knowing each other so long. She probed if they'd never felt attraction. Sangmi firmly denied any romantic feelings, recounting a time she visited Hyun during his military service. She shared a story of drinking together and spending the night in a motel, emphasizing nothing happened. Dong laughed, calling it a pure friendship. The manager, unconvinced, playfully grabbed Hyun's hand, asking Sangmi if it made her jealous. Sangmi brushed it off, unbothered by the gesture. The manager, testing further, leaned closer to Hyun, holding his hand tightly. Sangmi laughed, insisting it wouldn't faze her. Undeterred, the manager briefly pressed her cheek to Hyun's in a teasing gesture, leaving Sangmi unfazed and the group chuckling at the playful challenge. After the manager's playful cheek kiss with Hyun, she teased Sangmi, asking if she was jealous. Sangmi, caught off guard, covered her mouth in surprise. Dong, growing tired of the manager's antics, suggested they stop joking and keep drinking, proposing they play the king's game instead. Hyun, unfamiliar with it, asked what it was, but Sangmi eagerly agreed to play. In the first round, Sangmi won and declared herself king, ordering numbers 1 and 3 to kiss. The manager, unfazed, noted it was another kiss, while Dong revealed he was number 3. They shared a quick peck, and Hyun, watching, thought in disbelief that the manager had just kissed him and now kissed Dong. He silently fumed, feeling the atmosphere was too wild. The manager, laughing, challenged Sangmi to give her a tougher task next time. In the next round, the manager became king and ordered numbers 2 and 3 to touch each other. Hyun and Dong, revealed as the numbers, awkwardly complied, with Dong complimenting Hyun's muscle definition and Hyun noting Dong's impressive muscle volume. The girls giggled, finding the scene amusingly awkward. The manager won again, declaring she'd play seriously. She commanded number 1 to sit on number 3, move their waist in circles, touch each other, and soft work out for 5 minutes. Sangmi was number 1 and Dong, grinning, announced he was number 3. The manager turned to Hyun, asking if he'd be jealous. Hyun insisted it was just a game and he had no special relationship with Sangmi, denying any jealousy. The manager offered him an out, drink an entire jar of beer to cancel the challenge. Hyun eyed the jar, unsure he could manage it. Sangmi, determined, told him not to drink and said she'd go through with the challenge. She sat on Dong, who playfully remarked he enjoyed drinking with her and suggested they go out more often. Hyun, overcome with jealousy, grabbed the jar and downed it in one go, shocking everyone. Moments later, he passed out. Hyun dreamed he was working out with Sangmi, their movements synchronized. He awoke in his house, head pounding. His mother scolded him, saying a fitness trainer shouldn't get so drunk. Hyun, confused, asked how he got home. She shrugged, saying he must have returned while she was asleep. When he asked if she'd seen Sangmi, she dismissed the question, urging him to eat breakfast. Hyun, too anxious to eat, rushed to Sangmi's apartment. At Sangmi's door, her mother greeted him and Hyun asked if Sangmi was there. Her mother's face fell as she revealed Sangmi hadn't come home since the previous day. Hearing this, Hyun's frustration surged, his mind racing with worry about where she could be and what might have happened after he blacked out. Hyun sat at home enjoying breakfast with his mother. He complimented her idea of adding rice cakes to the soup, asking where his father was. She explained his father was at work, noting that only Hyun, with his flexible coach hours, could be home midday. She urged him to start work early to impress his employers, emphasizing his youth and potential. Hyun nodded, but his thoughts drifted to the previous night, his memory a blur. A fragment surfaced after passing out at the bar. The manager had checked on him, asking if he was okay. Sangmi, unfazed, assured her she'd take Hyun home later, suggesting they keep drinking. The manager teased Sangmi, surprised by her bold side, while Sangmi laughed, warning that looks could deceive before excusing herself to the bathroom. Dong, seizing the moment, told the manager he'd pursue Sangmi that night and asked her to handle Hyun. The manager shrugged, letting him do as he pleased, while Dong boasted about breaking his diet to achieve his goal. Back in the present, Hyun shook his head, convincing himself Sangmi wouldn't be with someone like Dong. His mother interrupted, asking what he was thinking and telling him to take out the trash after eating. As Hyun carried the trash outside, he wondered if the night's events were just a dream. A vivid sensation lingered. Someone had worked out with him while he was unconscious, too real to dismiss, though he couldn't place who it was. Spotting Sangmi's mother approaching with 2 grocery bags, Hyun offered to help. She explained she stocked up due to bad weather, suggesting they make mung bean pancakes with his mother. Hyun grinned, excited at the idea. Sangmi's mother asked if Sangmi had called, and Hyun, surprised, asked if she still hadn't come home. She reassured him it wasn't the first time, but Hyun, concerned, promised to try calling her again. Later, Hyun, his mother, and Sangmi's mother sat together, eating ramen. As his mother poured the noodles, another memory from the night flashed. A drunk Dong slurred to the manager that he'd take care of Sangmi, but the manager, seeing his state, sent him home in a cab. She then found Hyun and Sangmi, both drunk, slumped on the roadside. Grumbling, she carried them to Sangmi's place. After confirming Sangmi's address and settling her into bed, the manager asked an unresponsive Hyun if he lived upstairs. Exhausted, she placed him beside Sangmi in the same bed, muttering she didn't care what happened next, though she briefly considered it a shame to leave them like that. Back at the table, Sangmi's mother asked Hyun if he'd thought about marriage. Startled, he stammered that he'd only recently started working and needed to establish himself first. Hyun's mother chimed in, asking what he thought of Sangmi, noting their family's closeness and saying she'd approve if Sangmi agreed. Hyun, flustered, told her to stop talking nonsense. Just then, Sangmi walked in, surprising everyone at the table. Sangmi, entering the room, spotted Hyun and asked why he was there so early. Hyun's mother, surprised, pointed out that Sangmi wasn't at her own home and stammered about her clothes. Sangmi glanced down, realizing she wore little underneath, and bolted from the room in embarrassment. Later, Sangmi's mother called after her, asking if she and Hyun had spent the night together. Sangmi, flustered, denied knowing what she meant, insisting she was running late and hurried off. Her mother explained she couldn't wake her because she was asleep in Hyun's room, but Sangmi brushed it off, rushing out. At the gym, the day unfolded casually with everyone focused on their workouts. Hyun, sporting a sharp new haircut, sat alone, his thoughts lingering on the vivid sensation of someone working out with him while he was unconscious, wondering if it was Sangmi or just a dream. Approaching the manager, he hesitantly mentioned the previous night at the bar. She cut him off, firmly stating that what happened there stays there, complimenting his new hairstyle and noting he looked better. Moments later, the girl Dong had previously trained approached, ignoring him despite his smug thought that she couldn't forget him easily. She spoke to the manager, requesting to switch her paid class from Dong to Hyun. The manager approved, and Hyun, surprised, suggested they discuss it in the counseling room. The manager leaned in, whispering a warning that he'd face consequences if he didn't secure more class payments from her. In the counseling room, Hyun reviewed the girl's exercise routine, noting she targeted specific areas. He explained that if her goal wasn't muscle gain, she didn't need such intense workouts. The girl scooted closer, asking if he'd test her with the in-body machine. Hyun declined, saying a visual analysis was more accurate, and asked her to stand and raise her arms. He assessed her, praising her balanced muscles, lack of subcutaneous fat, and impressive figure, recommending basic exercises to maintain it. During their training session, Hyun guided her to breathe and focus on core strength, encouraging her effort. Dong, observing, grudgingly noted Hyun's progress, impressed by the skinny coach's improvement. After the session, the girl thanked Hyun warmly, and he invited her to return often, pleased with the outcome. As Hyun left the gym, his phone buzzed with a text from Sangmi, asking if he was heading home and suggesting they meet near his workplace. Hyun's mind raced, wondering why she wanted to see him. Before he could respond, the girl from the session pulled up in a red car, offering him a ride home to thank him for his help. Hyun declined politely, but she insisted, and he relented, climbing into the car, his thoughts still tangled with Sangmi's message. As the girl drove, she thanked Hyun, praising his coaching skills. Hyun downplayed it, saying her great physique made his job easy. Pleased, she expressed her desire to continue classes with him. Hyun, relieved, said he was glad his efforts paid off, jokingly adding it meant he wouldn't be fired. The girl, growing serious, asked for a favor, hoping he'd help. Hyun assured her he was there to serve his client, eager to assist. They arrived at her place, where she needed help hammering a nail. She admitted she'd never done it before, and Hyun chuckled, explaining it was a common task during his military service. As he worked, her cat suddenly lunged at him, causing him to stumble and fall onto her. They landed in an awkward position, and Hyun quickly apologized, checking if she was okay. The girl, grabbing his arm, apologized instead, noting a scratch on his face and asking how she could help. Playfully, she suggested he use his hammer for another task, implying something more. Hyun, caught off guard, said things were moving too fast. She teased if he was worried about being compared to Dong, but assured him she'd make him forget any comparisons. Despite his hesitation, they began a light workout session together, focusing on stretches. Meanwhile, Sangmi tried calling Hyun, but he was too occupied with the girl to notice, his phone buzzing unanswered in his pocket. At the gym, the manager reviewed the logbook tracking class payments. Spotting Dong lying on the floor, she teased him, suggesting he couldn't rely on his usual charm anymore and should focus on coaching male clients instead. Dong, clearly unwell, snapped back, claiming she didn't care about the gym's potential losses since he, the best coach, wasn't feeling good. The manager, unfazed, agreed he was still the best, her tone light but dismissive. Meanwhile, Hyun and the girl wrapped up an intense workout session at her place, focusing on core and lower body exercises. Afterward, she drove him home in her red car. Hyun thanked her and she brushed it off, saying she was the grateful one before driving away. As Hyun climbed the stairs to his apartment, he reflected on how much he'd been using his lower body lately, feeling the strain of recent activities. Suddenly, Sangmi appeared in front of him, her expression sharp, asking where he'd been. Hyun froze, caught off guard by her sudden presence and the weight of her question. Sangmi grabbed Hyun by the neck, calling him a naughty boy and accusing him of leaving with a woman. Hyun, defensive, insisted she was just a client who gave him a ride home. He turned the question back on her, asking where she'd gone with Dong and why she returned so late, pointing out she'd dodged his earlier questions. Sangmi, flustered, told him to forget it and suggested they talk later. Hyun pressed, demanding answers now. She stormed into his room, shutting the door behind her. Alone, Hyun's thoughts swirled, wondering if having feelings for Sangmi while being close with another girl counted as betrayal. Later at the gym, the manager coached a male client, encouraging him through his final lift. His effort, spurred by her vibrant presence, impressed her, and she praised his stimulated muscles, suggesting they were firm. She pitched a paid training class, highlighting how proper exercise could transform his body. Flattered, the man agreed to consider it, but his wife shot him a fierce glare, snapping at him to rethink his decision or face consequences. The manager sighed, reflecting on how convincing clients was getting harder, wondering if her age was a factor. She scrolled through Instagram, searching for new coaches to bolster the team. Hyun arrived, exuding charm as he greeted the female clients with warm compliments, wishing them a great day. He began training a girl, instructing her to keep her waist straight and core firm to avoid injury. The manager, observing his newfound confidence, thought he finally looked like a true coach. She noted his good mood, asking if something exciting happened. Hyun, with a sly smile, hinted she'd see soon. Moments later, Song, the girl Hyun had helped at her apartment, entered. Hyun welcomed her warmly, assuring her she wouldn't regret choosing his classes and inviting her to the counseling room. Leaning toward the manager, he whispered that Song had decided to renew her training sessions. The manager, impressed, thought he was thriving. In the counseling room, Hyun presented the contract, ready for Song to sign. She locked the door, her tone shifting as she admitted regretting letting him leave her place the previous night. Hyun, startled, warned that acting this way at the gym could cause trouble. Song, undeterred, asked what would happen if she did, her eyes challenging him. They began a light workout session, focusing on stretches, the air thick with unspoken tension. At the gym, a girl approached Dong, complaining about stiff hip muscles and asking for his help. Dong, with a playful smirk, teased her about what position she used the previous night to cause the stiffness, then told her to wait while he fetched something to massage her with. He headed toward the warehouse, where Hyun and Song were wrapping up their workout session. But as he reached to open the door, the manager stopped him, explaining someone was signing a contract inside. After a short wait, Hyun and Song emerged from the counseling room. Hyun promised to do everything he could to support her training goals, and Song, pleased, vowed to follow his advice. They stepped out, Song casually holding his arm, drawing Dong's sharp stare. Song suggested they take a picture together, and Hyun agreed, asking her to pass him the phone afterward. He posted the photo on Instagram, unaware of the ripple it would cause. Later, Sangmi scrolled through her phone and saw the post, her expression shifting to one of quiet jealousy as she processed the image of Hyun and Song together. Sangmi walked through a building, scrolling on her phone when she saw Hyun's latest Instagram post, a photo with another gym member racking up 135 likes. She muttered in frustration, startled when a colleague, the chief, playfully slapped her back. The chief apologized, gushing over Sangmi's physique and admitting her jealousy, asking if Sangmi was mad. Sangmi assured her she wasn't, and the chief, relieved, hugged her tightly, praising her attitude. Spotting the photo on Sangmi's phone, the chief gasped, admiring the guy's impressive build and pressing Sangmi about who he was. Sangmi, flustered, said he was just a friend. The chief, feigning disappointment, teased Sangmi for not introducing her to such a handsome guy, especially since she'd been single for a while. Sangmi's thoughts raced, realizing the chief was genuinely interested in Hyun. The chief proposed arranging a dinner for the three of them, suggesting that very night. Sangmi, caught off guard, agreed it wouldn't be hard to set up. That afternoon at the gym, Hyun coached a girl through her final weight lift, drawing eyes from others. He cheered her on, and she completed it successfully. Hyun thanked her for her effort, guiding her into stretches and instructing her to breathe out. Teasingly, he asked if he should really assist, chuckling as he helped her. After the session, he praised her work, mentioning a promotion on personal training services and encouraging her to sign up. She agreed enthusiastically. Later, the manager approached Hyun, commending his coaching skills and calling him teacher. Hyun humbly said he still had much to learn. She noted his boldness during the stretching session, and Hyun, grinning, said he was still far behind her. Playfully, he brought up the night she took him and Sangmi home, suggesting she'd gotten close to him while he lay next to Sangmi, afraid of waking her. The manager, confused, asked what he meant. Hyun teased that she knew it wasn't fair to act coy, but she insisted she didn't recall the details clearly and walked off, leaving him puzzled. Hyun laughed, thinking the manager loved to dodge questions, but then paused, a flicker of doubt crossing his mind. If it wasn't her that night, who was it? Frustrated, he shook his head, unable to piece together what really happened. Sangmi texted Hyun, inviting him for a beer that evening. Hyun, intrigued, thought she must have something to say and agreed to meet, eager to clear the air. At a restaurant, the chief thanked Sangmi for arranging the meetup, but Sangmi tempered her expectations about Hyun, joking he only looked good in photos and offering to introduce her to another trainer. The chief, undeterred, said she'd judge for herself when she saw him, excusing herself to the bathroom. Hyun arrived, grumbling to himself about meeting near Sangmi's company instead of closer to home. As the chief returned, she spotted him but tripped while approaching. Hyun swiftly caught her, steadying her as she thanked him. She introduced herself as Lee, and Hyun, surprised, asked who she was. They joined Sangmi at the table, where Hyun chided her for not mentioning a third person, feeling underdressed in his casual clothes. The chief complimented his look, and Sangmi teased that they were lucky he didn't show up in a tracksuit. The chief, flirting lightly, said a man's style depended on the woman dressing him, suggesting outfit ideas for Hyun. He laughed, thanking her while she expressed gratitude for his earlier save, saying it could have been dangerous without him. Hyun brushed it off, saying it was a natural reaction for a man. The trio drank heavily, the mood lightening. Hyun, feeling the alcohol, excused himself to the bathroom. In his absence, the chief leaned toward Sangmi, asking if there was truly nothing between her and Hyun. Sangmi confirmed there wasn't, and the chief whispered something in her ear, causing Sangmi's eyes to widen in surprise. Hyun returned, sensing the shift, and jokingly accused them of talking behind his back. The chief denied it, claiming she was asking Sangmi about food for a second round, inviting him to join. Hyun agreed enthusiastically. Later, outside and thoroughly drunk, Sangmi announced she'd leave first to meet an acquaintance nearby. Hyun asked who, and she revealed it was Dong-jun, asking if it was okay to see him briefly. Hyun, irritated, questioned why she needed to meet Dong, his frustration spilling out. Sangmi, defensive, pointed out he hadn't been honest about his own whereabouts before, so she didn't owe him an explanation. Hyun retorted that she'd been the first to hide the truth, and Sangmi, annoyed, accused him of acting childish. She told him to have fun with the chief, promising to join them later. The chief, taking Hyun's hand, said they'd head in first and send Sangmi their location. As they walked alone, she asked if he liked Sangmi. Hyun, caught off guard, stammered that he didn't, not really. The chief, her tone warm, said a man like him deserved to be loved, admitting she'd been waiting for a moment alone with him. They stopped in front of a motel, the air heavy with her implication, leaving Hyun to grapple with the unexpected turn. Inside the motel, while the chief bathed, Hyun sat on the bed, texting Sangmi. He asked where she was and what she was doing, growing frustrated as she didn't respond. His messages piled up, his worry mounting that something might happen to her. Overwhelmed, he left the motel without telling the chief, his mind racing. Hyun ran through the streets, wondering where Sangmi and Dong had gone, imagining them secretly working out together. His thoughts spiraled. Why did he care so much when she'd only mentioned eating with the team leader? Confused by his own emotions, he couldn't make sense of his jealousy. Heading home, he called out for Sangmi, his voice loud enough to risk waking her parents. Sangmi opened the door, scolding him for shouting and asking what he'd do if her parents woke up. Hyun insisted they talk immediately, brushing off her suggestion to wait until tomorrow. They went to her room, where he demanded they be honest and get to the point, urging her to share if something was bothering her. Sangmi agreed, telling him to ask his question first. Hyun confronted her about meeting Dong that night, questioning why she'd see him just to discuss her diet after drinking. He pressed what was going on between them and why they met so often. Sangmi, caught off guard, stammered that there was nothing between them, hesitating over her words. Hyun, catching her use of us, asked why she didn't clarify there was no us with Dong. Flipping the conversation, Sangmi asked what he did with her chief, Jong. Hyun said they only had a drink, privately recalling they went to a motel but keeping it from her. Sangmi brought up the female gym member who drove him home, asking about their relationship. Hyun insisted it was just a coach-client dynamic, though he thought to himself about their workout, convincing himself it meant nothing. Sangmi pointed out the member brought him home, implying more. Hyun, regretting his line of questioning, suspected Sangmi and Dong might be close without officially dating, his doubts festering. Gathering his courage, Hyun asked Sangmi directly if she'd been working out with Dong, his voice heavy with curiosity and fear of her answer. Sangmi's eyes widened, shocked by the blunt question, leaving the room tense with anticipation. Hyun pressed Sangmi, demanding to know if she'd been working out with Dong. She firmly denied it, insisting there was no reason she would, and asked if he thought she was lying. Hyun, unconvinced, questioned why her heart was racing as he held her wrist. Sangmi, flustered, said it was only because he was gripping her, nothing more. He reminded her that she'd been unbothered during their last massage, pointing out her pounding heart now over just holding hands. Hyun began massaging her wrist, recalling how she'd claimed not to care last time, and asked if she'd felt excited then. Sangmi, annoyed, reiterated that nothing happened between them and pushed him away, landing on the bed. Hyun, undeterred, leaned closer, saying he'd check for himself if she was telling the truth. Sangmi demanded he let go, but he teased that she'd said she didn't mind, insisting he was only verifying her words. She asked if the thought of her with Dong made him jealous, probing why he'd feel that way if they were just friends. Hyun, caught off guard, asked if she had a habit of getting close with friends. Hyun, thinking back, accused her of working out with him that night in her bedroom while he was asleep. Sangmi, outraged, called his claims nonsense, denying it vehemently. She challenged his behavior, asking what was wrong with him tonight. The tension hung heavy as Hyun, his voice softer, asked if she wanted to take things further with him, leaving the question lingering in the charged air of her room. Sangmi, caught off guard by Hyun's bold question, admitted she wanted to be close but accused him of being drunk to say such a thing. Hyun denied it, suggesting she'd prompted it because she felt the same. Sangmi insisted that wasn't what she meant, reminding him they were friends and crossing that line would make facing each other later impossible. Hyun brushed off her concern, joking she could just close her eyes. He pressed again about the night he felt someone was working out with him, convinced it was her acting. Sangmi swore she never did such a thing, growing agitated. Hyun, skeptical, teased if he should investigate further, inching closer. She demanded he let go, but he refused, insisting on the truth. Sangmi, flustered, maintained her denial, her voice wavering. Hyun, unrelenting, said it didn't matter anymore, they should focus on the present moment. Sangmi called out his name, urging him to stop as he playfully challenged her to reciprocate if she felt wronged, referencing her past casual attitude during their massage. She denied wanting that, reiterating it wasn't her that night. Hyun, undeterred, asked if she wanted to work out now, his tone teasing yet intense. Sangmi, exasperated, questioned what he was doing as he jokingly suggested she adjust her position for a better stretch, aiming to keep the mood light but direct. The room buzzed with tension, their words and actions dancing on the edge of their long-standing friendship. They started working out together. After a while, Sangmi's mom knocked on the door. They both became afraid. As Hyun and Sangmi engaged in a playful workout in her room, stretching and teasing each other, Sangmi's mother called from outside, asking if she was sleeping and why her door was locked again. She requested Sangmi turn off the light. Sangmi, slightly flustered, shouted back that she'd do it, her voice betraying a hint of distraction. Her mother, muttering about Sangmi having her head in the clouds, shuffled away. Hyun and Sangmi exchanged a quick glance, stifling laughter, and resumed their workout. After their workout, Sangmi sat up, her voice tinged with panic as she wondered what they'd done. Hyun, relaxed, suggested they stay close a bit longer, teasing that she enjoyed it too. Sangmi, pushing him away, told him to leave before her parents noticed. Hyun slipped out of her room, stepping outside to find morning light already breaking. Later at the gym, Hyun's thoughts swirled with concern for Sangmi. He wondered if she was okay, frustrated that she'd initiated their closeness but seemed upset when he reciprocated. Lost in thought, he didn't notice the manager approach until she playfully slapped his back, scolding him for spacing out during work hours. She told him to help clean the warehouse like last time, hinting they hadn't been close since their drunken night after the group dinner. Hyun, confused, asked what she meant by the other night. The manager teased him for pretending to forget, claiming they'd been working out in his bedroom where he'd asked her to shed her clothes. She reassured him Sangmi was too drunk to notice and completely passed out. Hyun's mind reeled, realizing Sangmi wasn't the one who'd initiated things that night, it was the manager. Stunned, he grappled with the revelation, his assumptions about Sangmi crumbling. Hyun, shocked, asked the manager if she was really the one with him that night. She teased if he genuinely didn't remember or was just pretending, her eyes glinting mischievously. Her mind drifted to that night when she'd left Sangmi and Hyun on the same bed, muttering it'd be a waste to leave them like that. Seeing Sangmi fast asleep, she'd started a workout with an unconscious Hyun, marveling at his physique compared to Dong's softer frame, likening it to a sweet treat. Hyun stood stunned as she recounted the story, his face a mix of disbelief and embarrassment. The manager, sensing his turmoil, told him not to be too hard on himself for forgetting, assuring him there'd be plenty of chances to make new memories if he worked hard. Her tone was light but suggestive, leaving him reeling. Later, at the gym, Hyun coached Song, instructing her to raise her upper body during their session. His thoughts wandered to Sangmi, guilt creeping in. He'd assumed it was her that night, accusing her of being too close, only to realize he'd been the one crossing lines with the manager. He wondered if Sangmi's willingness to get close during their workout meant she'd wanted it too, his mind tangled in confusion. After training, Hyun thanked Song for her hard work and she playfully called him teacher, expressing her gratitude. Suddenly, she grabbed his arm, asking if he could visit her house that night for a massage. Hyun, caught off guard, said he never ignored a client's needs but had other plans. Song, disappointed but understanding, let it go. Outside, walking along the road, Hyun tried calling Sangmi, growing anxious as she didn't answer his calls or texts. He wondered if she was busy or upset, his worry mounting. Suddenly, he spotted her approaching. Calling her name, he asked for a moment to talk. They stood face to face, eyes locked, the air heavy with unspoken questions and emotions. Sangmi spotted Hyun and immediately turned away, quickening her pace. Hyun, desperate, called out for her to stop and talk, chasing after her. Sangmi broke into a run, darting to her room and locking the door behind her. Later, lying on his bed, Hyun's thoughts churned. He wondered why she ran from him, frustrated that things had soured. If she didn't want to work out, he thought she should have just said so. The next day at the gym, activity buzzed as members worked out. Hyun approached the manager, noting the increase in male members. She sighed, pointing out they weren't spending money or seeking coaching, either helping themselves or just ogling the female clients. She mused about hiring a female trainer to shake things up. Then she asked for Hyun's help with something, showing him photos of potential candidates. The first was a college championship winner who could lift over 500 pounds. The second, Inun Pity, was a recent model who might not have time to work. Accidentally, she opened a photo of herself, prompting Hyun to point out it was her. The manager laughed, revealing she'd modeled in her youth, even appearing in music videos, and mentioned a younger friend, a popular figure in Gangnam. She asked Hyun which candidate seemed best for the trainer role. Before he could answer, Sangmi entered, and the manager, noticing Hyun's distraction, sighed about blind devotion. Sangmi greeted Dong but ignored Hyun's question about why she was there. She told Dong she'd prepare for their training session, and he encouraged her to take her time, sensing a strange tension between her and Hyun. Dong's thoughts turned sly, wondering if something happened between them, his gaze lingering on Sangmi with a calculating glint, contemplating if she needed comforting. Sangmi emerged from the locker room in tight gym pants, catching Dong's attention. He complimented her bold outfit, suggesting a bolder coaching approach with a playful grin. Guiding her with a hand on her back, he proposed focusing on back exercises. Hyun, watching from a distance, felt a pang of jealousy as they began training. Dong instructed Sangmi to keep her back straight, warning she'd hurt herself otherwise. He urged her to arch her waist slightly, praising her form and teasing that she couldn't resist his coaching skills. He told her to look straight ahead, not elsewhere. Sangmi, catching Hyun's jealous glare, paused briefly, asking for a moment, but did nothing to address his obvious discomfort. Dong, amused, noted she was staying still, making his job easier, and encouraged her to stay focused as they continued. Hyun's anger simmered as he watched. After the session, Sangmi thanked Dong, who praised her effort and reminded her to control her diet, promising to stay in touch about it. Sangmi nodded, heading off. Later, at a coffee bar, the manager waited for someone, her eyes scanning the room. A striking blonde woman entered, drawing stares from patrons. She greeted the manager warmly, calling her Uni and noting it had been a while. The manager, eyeing her figure, remarked on her appearance, surprised she hadn't had surgery. The blonde laughed, teasing that the manager's figure was more impressive, though older. The manager, mock offended, asked if she was joking. The blonde apologized for her tardiness, blaming Gangnam's traffic, and the manager chided her for not leaving earlier. The blonde, still apologetic, asked why the manager had reached out after years. The manager got to the point, offering her a job at the gym. The blonde, surprised by the sudden proposal, listened as the manager outlined a generous offer. Before she could finish, the blonde agreed, trusting the manager's judgment since it was her Uni making the deal. She mentioned a spa reservation, clarifying she was only repaying a past debt, and left after a quick farewell, leaving the manager to process their brief but loaded exchange. At the office canteen, Sangmi sat alone, her thoughts heavy with guilt for avoiding Hyun. She wondered how to face him after their recent closeness. Her phone buzzed with a text she assumed was from Hyun, but it was Dong, inviting her to share a sirloin steak after training at a renowned Seoul restaurant. Confused about what a sirloin steak was, she sighed, realizing she couldn't keep dodging Hyun and needed to address their situation. Her boss approached, noticing Sangmi's worried expression, and asked what was on her mind. Sangmi inquired if she'd made it home safely that night. Her boss, teasing, asked why she was only asking now, calling her considerate but cranky. Sangmi, puzzled, asked what she meant. Her boss, flustered, said she should have brought it up sooner, revealing that Hyun had left a girl alone in a motel, shocking Sangmi. Later, walking along the road, Sangmi pieced together that Hyun hadn't worked out with her boss that night. Her anger flared, thinking Hyun had taken her boss to a motel for workout, then did the same with her right after. Fuming, she called him a deceitful jerk, vowing to confront him. At the gym, Dong greeted Sangmi warmly, but she ignored him, still upset. Approaching him, she thanked him for her improved physique, noting his own growing muscles. Dong, pleased, said it was due to his recent focus on building strength and asked if she'd seen his text about dinner, emphasizing that great food was key to a great body. Sangmi agreed, intrigued by the plan. Hyun, watching, seethed, questioning her behavior and feeling childish for his jealousy. Dong told Sangmi to change for training, promising to discuss dinner details later, and shot Hyun a smug smile as their eyes met. Suddenly, a crowd gathered in the gym, drawing Hyun and Dong's attention. They approached and saw a stunning blonde woman, the new trainer, Rhea. Both men blushed at her beauty. The manager introduced Rhea to the team, pointing out Hyun on the left and Dong on the right, announcing she'd start working with them. Hyun and Dong, flustered, stammered their excitement to collaborate with her. Sangmi, now in gym clothes, called out to Dong, only to see him chatting with Rhea. A flicker of jealousy crossed her face as she watched the interaction unfold.